I was escaping the cult. It was like that. I had a vision. I could have instead been paralyzed by fear. And then when I started in my career, which became very successful, it was the same thing. There's always things that could be those rocks and those roots and those trees that stop you from moving forward. But the more you focus and stay laser focused on the path, the more successful you are.
Esther Howard, welcome to the Listening Bea. I'm truly honored to have you here. You've led clinical trials and now lead a mental health movement. But underneath it all is a story of escaping a cult, surviving trauma, and finding the other side of fear, which is now the title of the book you're writing, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, I'm so curious to explore how fear can be transformed into strength and how reclaiming our voice, our time, and our story helps us become who we're always meant to be. So thank you again for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
What's the biggest life lesson that changed how you show up in the world today?
The biggest thing that I've learned through life in general is that when things get really rough, sometimes the best solution is to pause, take a breath, and lean on people around you, and it's going to be okay. It always is. Like the bad times do pass, and it's sometimes hard to believe that when you're going through them.
Yeah, and you've been through a lot of uncertain events that just kind of sprung up at you. How did you deal with those and go through those when they came to you? Because I know sometimes it can be difficult to just remember to step back and center yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been through a lot for sure. Most of it happened in my early adulthood. It happens that everyone has had some type of trauma in their life, or some bad things have happened to them in some way or another. And when I reflect back to those really awful days, I remember just grounding myself in focusing on where I wanted to get to instead of where I am, because where you are can be a form of torture and hell. But when you think about where you want to get to and you see a path forward to that, then you start to believe in, I can take the next step. I can take the next step. I can get through the next moment or the next day, and start to make a plan for that future.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea of having a vision for yourself and for where you want to go. You've also moved through so many demanding roles. So what helped you stop running on survival mode and start using your time in ways that felt more aligned with your truth?
I think that I'm probably still running on survival mode sometimes, especially being the founder of a company, which is what you end up in. But how, again, I'm very mission oriented, and I am always thinking about what I want to achieve. And through life and through the journey that I've gone through, where there was very difficult times, but also very amazing times, the thing that really grounds me through it all is finding that path. I like to give an analogy to answer that question. One of the hobbies that I love to do is I love to ride motorcycles. I love to ride dirt bikes particularly. And so I ride out into the mountains, into the forest. And when you're out there and you're riding, it's really easy to see the rocks and the roots and the trees that are coming at you, all the danger. It's really easy to focus on the danger and the things that could potentially hurt you. And if you focus on those things, then you end up crashing and hitting a tree. And it's not the tree's fault because the tree didn't move. It's just there. And if you focus in between the rocks and the roots and the trees, and towards a path that can form in front of you, you can create it in your own imagination, in your own mind as you're riding, then you're going to have a great ride, and it's going to be a great day. And by the time you're done, you're going to look back at all of the potential obstacles that could have hit you, and you feel very accomplished. So I see that as being the continuous thread through my life, where back when I was escaping the cult, it was like that. I had a vision. I could have instead been paralyzed by fear. And then when I started in my career, which became very successful, it was the same thing. There's always things that could be those rocks and those roots and those trees that stop you from moving forward. But the more you focus and stay laser focused on the path, the more successful you are.
Well, that's so powerful. It's important, like you said, to be laser focused on whatever it is. And it's better to be laser focused on the good than the bad, because if we're focused on the bad, then we pick out everything and then our brain makes it into a spiral. But same thing, if we focus on the good, then amazing things happen, right?
Exactly. It really is mindset. It took me many years to believe that, though. I was practicing it without realizing it. And only in this last 5 years since I started Bezel and really began a more intense mental healing journey for myself did I start to understand the power of mindset. But before that, I thought it was actually quite rubbish.
Yeah. Well, you talked a lot about how starting Bezel, being a founder of a company, that's a lot of work, right? So you're pretty busy, you're doing a lot of things, but you're helping so many people. And so what used to drain your energy the most, and how did you learn to listen to your body and your spirit again?
I love that question too. You ask really good questions. Right now, thinking about just today, the thing that drains my energy the most is if I have a tendency to think about and overthink about every interaction, every potential possibility. And when I overthink all of the potential, like, am I pleasing all of these people? I end up completely getting exhausted and drained. It actually happened to me yesterday. By midday yesterday, I finished up my last meeting and I was completely exhausted. I was drained, and it was not because I didn't get enough sleep before. It wasn't because of anything like that. It was completely related to myself overthinking every single interaction that I was going through. A couple months ago, a really good friend of mine told me that he takes, this is going to sound really funny, he takes a nap every afternoon for 15 minutes. And I have always hated I hate naps. Like, I hate them. They make me feel groggy afterwards. And I've never, ever since I was a little kid, I never liked them. So I don't take naps. But what I did do is I sat on my couch in the living room without my phone, without my computer. I turned on some music and I just relaxed. It was my form of meditation, but I gave myself 15 minutes of just, it's going to be okay. And by giving myself that space to just disconnect, I knew that everything would be okay for 15 minutes in the world. And so I figured, okay, I'll give myself 15 minutes to take those deep breaths, relax. It's going to be okay. And I really felt myself recentered in those 15 minutes. And then I went back at it to work, but I felt much more in control and not like so hyper focused on every single interaction that I was encountering, which was really overwhelming me. It physically like hurt my neck. I was feeling anxiety. This is not healthy.
Yeah, well, I love that you took your own advice to pause and give minutes. And I think a lot of people don't realize, if we step back for 15 minutes, the world's not going to collapse.
It just, if you say to yourself, the world, it's going to be fine. Like, give myself 5 minutes. Nothing's going to happen in 5 minutes. That bill doesn't need to get paid in the next 5 minutes. That phone call doesn't need to be made in the next 5 minutes. That text message doesn't have to be responded to in the next 5 minutes. I'm taking this. And wow, it's so powerful. It gives you so much strength. And then you can go at the things that
Yeah,
you
that is
have to
so
tackle.
powerful. I love it. I love it. And we're also talking a lot about like our environment, right? So you kind of set the mood with
Mhm.
music, and that's your form of meditation. And other
Yeah.
people have different things they like to do. But you've been through a lot. You escaped a cult. You survived a lot of trauma. You
Mhm.
healed a lot in adulthood, and it has a lot to do with your environments. What environments helped you begin again and kind of like reset, both emotionally, physically, and also digitally?
I think that it's different for everybody. Everybody gets strength in different types of environments. For me, it's really important that I get away from noise, even though, which is very ironic because the cult itself, we were isolated from the world. We were on a mountain and it was like very isolating. So they might think that the best environment for me would be something opposite to that. But what I've now learned about myself and the situation and the trauma that I went through is that it wasn't the mountain that created the trauma. It was the people. It was the cult itself and the oppression that I was under. So the mountain and the cult are separate for me. And so now I really feel like when I give myself time to get into the mountains or get in Arizona, I love the desert, like anywhere where there is no noise from cars, not a lot of people, and I can hear the silence in the world. I feel like I've been strengthened again. It's kind of like going to the gym and working out, but for your mind and your body and your soul. And I'm also, like spiritually too. Like I think that for me that there's a huge component to a spiritual journey that is part of all of that. It's not just what your surroundings are, but it's where, your inner dialogues and who you talk to in your mind and what you're going through with the energy that you're creating, that becomes very healing too. So for me, it's I got to find silence. And when I am going through long periods of time where I don't find that silence, I can feel myself getting completely drained again, and I have to go physically seek it.
I can imagine it must have been like super difficult to separate the, you know, idea that you like to be alone, and that's also what the traumatic experiences were like. But you got to this point and you know that you enjoy that, and that's separate from the people, right? So
Right.
I love the separation between the energy and the environment there. I think that's amazing. Thank you for sharing your story a little bit too. I know that, you know, it might be difficult sometimes to talk about past memories, but you seem like you've come a very, very far way and seems amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I share my stories now a lot better. When the first 10 years post escape, I couldn't do it. I had a huge physical reaction to it. So I would try to talk about it, but then my body would start to shiver, and it felt like someone was blasting like this cold air all over me, and I couldn't form my words and talk through it. But now I'm getting much better. Like now I'm starting to be
Yeah.
able to talk through it. Now that I'm writing the book, that's huge. Like writing the book has really helped a lot, because now I'm able to put pen to paper a lot of those experiences and face them and realize that that's what they are. They aren't part of me and my life anymore. And so it's very healing.
Yeah, it seems like you've gone through an immense journey of growth. Can you share a little bit more about how you started to heal from all of that?
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster. The
Yeah.
first few years after I escaped, I drew into myself and I just worked. Had a job and I worked and I poured my every waking minute into the work. And that was very unhealthy, but it was also the only thing that I had as a coping mechanism available to me. I tried to go to therapy and that was very unsuccessful. I couldn't find a therapist or psychologist or any medical professional that could help me. I couldn't find anyone. And so it was very frustrating. And then I went through a phase in life where instead of working all the time, I was seeking adrenaline. And so I became a skydiver. And that's when I started riding motorcycles. And then I was doing all of these crazy adventurous things that were amazing in of themselves. And I loved them. It's a huge part of my personality. So it wasn't like just an escape mechanism for me, but it really was. But I could feel like these huge crashes. So I would go on a weekend skydiving, and I would like have so much fun jumping out of airplanes all weekend. And then by Sunday night, I would be in the pit of despair, be contemplating suicide again, and I would be a disaster. So I knew that roller coaster was not healthy. And so I'd pour myself back into work again. But the thing that ended up being the most healing for me in those early days was peer support, was finding people that I could talk to. And because at first I had no one. And then I had, like one friend and then a second friend. And I found that when I could relate to somebody where I knew that they didn't feel like they could relate to me and I knew that I didn't relate to their trauma, people that had gone into the military and had bad events when they were deployed were the ones that I ended up becoming the closest to, because they felt misunderstood and they felt very much like their trauma, no one could understand them. And I felt the same way, even though our trauma was very different. Finding that person that you could call in the middle of the night when you're on the bathroom floor crying, or not able to sleep, or you have nightmares and you're just like, wow, I just need a human. Finding who my core people were was really critical to my healing and being able to then take yet another step forward. And it took almost 20 years before I really started to understand that there is a way and there is hope to healing. I still suffered for close to 20 years after escaping the cult. And it was in this last 5 years, as I've built Basil, that I realized that there is more hope than that. You don't have to suffer as much. And so then I realized there is a medical community that does understand trauma in a way that is helpful. And I realized that there are these tools that are available to me that I can learn. That's when I learned take the 15 minutes and learned, to regulate my breathing and maybe find my way of meditation and things like that, and getting out into the desert and praying and whatever helps me. But it took me 20 years. It was not not easy. And now I look back and I feel strong and grateful for the bad times because they made me who I am now. And now I have the opportunity to help other people.
Yeah, you've had such a beautiful journey, and I can only imagine how difficult it was to go from, trying to use things to escape and disconnect from what was the inner turmoil inside of you, and then finding like support systems. I think that
Mhm.
that's like the secret key to healing that you said is, find that one person you can call in the middle of the night, no matter what's happening.
Yeah, you really do. But my girl, I had a girlfriend, like a friend that I had met through work, and she was, had we didn't live near each other, but she became a very close friend to me. And I remember there was times that she would stay on the phone with me until she could hear that I had gone back to sleep. Finding peer support is really powerful. And she wasn't a therapist. She didn't know what she was doing, or, like she just knew that's what I needed, and so she gave it to me.
Thank you for sharing that. So, what is one small thing that you wish our audience could do today to start their own transformation, kind of like you did, especially if they're stuck in survival mode?
It's different for everybody, but what I do want to encourage people to do is seek for it, look for it, because there are tools that are available. For one of my friends who's a psychologist, he and his wife schedule comedy shows every month because laughter is therapy, and I think that's brilliant. So to go from being in survival mode and then being able to get into a thriving mode. I'm not a clinical psychologist. I just can speak from lived experience, and I can tell you there's a step forward that you can make. That just try something new. It doesn't matter what it is. Just try it. Just pick up that next meditation app or learn maybe some nutrition tips that might be able to help you, or find a friend or whatever it is. But for everybody, it's different. So my biggest piece of advice is to find what it is for you.
That was amazing. And thank you so much for sharing your truth and your story and everything that you've been through and how you've healed and grown from it. And you've shown us that, healing is not only possible, but it's powerful. And you feel powerful now that you've gone through that and you've grown from it. So if anyone wants to learn more about your work, they can go to bezel.com. I'm excited to see where this goes and to have our audience listen to this wonderful conversation. Thank you again for joining the Listening Bee.
Of course. Thank you.